and my father is 483 years old. Billy says, do you know of even other universes than the DAL universe and ours? With this, I don't just mean other dimensions or other space-time configurations in our DEN universe, but actually other universes, so foreign ones that don't belong to our two twin universes. Quetzal says, actually, we have already concerned ourselves scientifically with foreign universes for a long time, but so far, we haven't been able to gain any concrete insights that would enable us to penetrate into such universes. We have knowledge and proofs of the existence of foreign universes, but it is still impossible for us to break them open. Therefore, we can presently only visit the DEN's sister universe, that is the DEN's twin universe and, thus, the DAL universe. However, our scientists as well as AskIt's people and their highly developed allies are working very hard on solving the problem at hand. A success is likely to be expected, however, in at least 15 years. Billy says that would be shortly after the turn of the millennium. If I remember this in the new millennium, then I will ask you or another one of you about how the relevant researches stand. Quetzal says that will remain open for you. Billy says somehow I will surely remember it, even though my memory has suffered greatly since my health collapse. Quetzal says I also think that this will be the case. Your memory surely won't let you down, as you tend to say. Billy says Semyaz once explained to me, in response to one of my questions, that antimatter is real and that this was already discovered by your ancestors more than 50,000 years ago and has been used by you since that time as beam ship propulsion. Since then, have you researched and developed new techniques for this? Quetzal says of course. Negative matter, as we call antimatter, has already been used by us for 50 millennia for all sorts of purposes, and of course also many other researches were connected with it and still are. Therefore, new insights will also constantly be won and will create new ones, with which negative matter is brought to application or is used. Billy says understood. But tell me, are you also familiar with meteoropathy? Since my accident in Iskent, Iran in Turkey on the 4th of August, 1964, as well as since my severe health collapse on the 4th of November, 1982, I suffer from meteoropathy at the center, particularly in reference to my lost arm, with which I address excessive phantom pains, which can sometimes drive me up the wall and make me half insane. Quetzal says physical meteoropathy is caused by planetary as well as solar-conditioned fluctuations or variations that affect humans and animals as well as plants, and indeed, in all genera and species, when these have any organic or physical injuries. These include scarring, on the bones as well as on the skin, meat, muscles, veins and organs. With us, however, this meteoropathy no longer appears among humans because with all resulting injuries as well as with illnesses, if such would exceptionally occur once, which is virtually impossible, however healing measures and healing processes are carried out and are brought to application, which completely repair all injuries to bones, meat, skin, and organs down to the last detail. Consequently, no scarring or other factors of injury and, thus, no after effects remain that could cause meteoropathy. Billy says then I have a question about aromas and smells. Where, actually, do humans perceive aromas and smells in truth? It can't just be the olfactory organ, right? And what exactly is to be thought of the Bach flower theory? Quetzal says aromas and smells aren't just perceived through the olfactory organ, that is the nose, but also through the skin. In addition, the palate and the tongue play a certain role, as this is also the case in terms of taste. The actual center of the perception of aromas, perception of smells, and perception of taste, however, is the limbic system, in which all relevant perceptions concentrate and are processed. Through this processing of aromas and smells, as well as the associations of taste, thoughts and feelings arising from this are likewise triggered, as well as emotions, certain behaviors, body reactions, actions, organ reactions, skin reactions, and memories. Aromas, smells, and tastes also affect the immune system, from which it follows that they may also be health-promoting or injurious to health, namely depending on their type and intensity. Of course, this is also valid for the psyche and for the consciousness. Concerning beech flower therapy, the same is valid, like with the application of other similar or parallel therapies or other utilizations of aromas and smells. This also applies to flavorings. All these substances should not and may not be handled thoughtlessly and carelessly. But unfortunately, this often isn't considered by the earth person because he always chooses to exaggerate these things, which often causes more harm than good. Only minor or no successes at all are achieved. This is also so in reference to beech flower therapy, which truly doesn't reach the form of application that would basically correspond to what is right. For example, when psychological interests are concerned, beech flower therapy, as a rule, doesn't work at all or only partially, and indeed even with months of application. So the rule is that solely through the mental and emotional adjustment of the person during these months are psychological troubles removed, which is then erroneously attributed to the beech flower therapy, which is brought to application in far too low concentration. In and of itself, beech flower therapy is just as good in its value as any other aromatherapy, smell therapy, and taste therapy, but all these therapies become useless or injurious to health if misused, which can be the case both through an underdosage but also through an excessive dosage. Unfortunately, through the profiteering and greed as well as through the ignorance of the earth people, a lot of nonsense, untruthfulness, deception, and charlatanism are pursued in this area in many ways. In terms of this, and especially with respect to the general lack of understanding in these areas, the applications of aromas, smells, and tastes require extreme caution. In this regard, authoritative researches and insights of a scientific nature are not yet given on the earth with the humans in the way that they could be referred to as actual results and knowledge. Everything is, so to speak, still in its children's shoes, as you tend to say. Real research results as well as real insights of a scientific nature in this regard should first be made toward the end of this or at the beginning of the new millennium. Only after that will everything slowly take a turn for the better, in regards to the utilization of aromas and smells as well as flavorings. Billy says we on the earth have consulates or embassies in all countries. These have the task of representing citizens who belong to their home countries in foreign countries and also of performing other duties that result with the host country and the home country, whereby also purely political matters must be settled by these institutions, and in particular, the transmission of messages also falls to the embassies. But now, here in the world, it is the case, as you once told me, that in the future, more and more of these consulates and embassies will be threatened, invaded, occupied, and perhaps even blown up into the air by terrorists, lunatics, and assassins, etc. Of course, under certain circumstances, this will also bring a lot of trouble for the people who reside in the environment, perhaps even ruin and death. Here, I ask myself, how is this with you? For you certainly also have similar institutions, through which home country citizens are represented and through which messages, etc. are transmitted, right? Also, such enterprises are probably necessary in regards to contact with your federation and the governments as well as with those who don't belong to your alliance. Quetzal says that is quite correct. We also have such institutions, of course, but on our own planets, they aren't related to the same political framework as the one you know on Earth. Purely planetary institutions in relation to this only have the duties of care, order, and administration, but no political aspects, etc., for our worlds are guided by the spirit leadership of a central form, whereby the institutions mentioned, then, are the actual executive bodies. Of course, the same are also responsible in certain cases, which are specified very much together with the central spirit leadership, for particular aspects concerning the governments of planets of our Federation as well as with governments of worlds that are foreign to the Federation. But overall, They are only representatives who exercise their duties on behalf of the central spirit leadership who, in turn,